with a little snafu with the last stream there. I'm gonna try this stream here. Get this going here. Give me 1 second as they get set up. Always the best laid plans, right? Always something goes wrong at the last second. Okay. Today I'm just gonna be doing a little bit of sketching, just some loose free sketching. I'm gonna be taking requests. Looks like, okay, cool, it is working, great. Just gonna get this updated link going here. All right. All right, cool. Got the chat up here. If you have any requests, drop them in the chat. I already had a request earlier online to do a coffee maker, so we're gonna be doing that first. And of all the things I've designed, I've never done a coffee maker before, not professionally anyway, just for fun. I've sketched them, of course, but I'm gonna start with that. Okay. All right, so let's get into it. I'm gonna start this, I guess. So the request is for a coffee maker. I think I'm gonna do a little bit more of an espresso machine. No idea how to spell that. It's okay, cannot spell. And I think I'm just gonna start off with just some quick little orthographic studies on that espresso machine. So usually with an espresso machine, you've got some kind of a base, and then vertical element, then kind of a larger top element. I'm just starting out here. I'm trying to figure the form out. You know, I'm not putting any pressure on myself yet. I'm actually gonna Google espresso machine here so I can get a sense of like, what are the general forms? Yeah, okay. You know, some kind of a thing that comes down here. You know, spout. We're gonna have our little espresso cup. This is also called a demi-tasse cup. Those of you that want to get a little bit nerdy. So let's think of maybe some kind of a really simple home espresso machine. It's kind of what I'm thinking. So I'm just going to keep working orthographically at first here, just trying to get some ideas out. Just working in this silhouette. And you know, right now I'm just playing. You know, I'm not even thinking about like what's good or what's bad. I'm just messing around. I always see like sometimes you see like a little storage up top here for the demi-tasse cups. Think about that a little bit. I want to angle that up. Thinking of that, the eyesight. This is the control panel here. I want to angle that up to the user. like just kind of starting in these orthographic views. It just kind of takes the pressure off. You know, instead of going straight into a perspective of a complicated thing with a lot of different volumes. But I'm kind of liking where this one's going. And start thinking about what would a front view of this be. So I'm showing this kind of arcing front surface here, right? Doing something like that. Something like that. So it'd be a little wide. Unless we were gonna do 2 cups side by side. Something there. I'm gonna start working that one up in perspective. So let's show a bit of the top of this. So I want to show off this little storage area here. So I'm going to be doing a perspective that's looking down a bit. Plus, this is a small object. You know, when I think of an object, when I think of laying out the perspective for an object, I want to think about its scale. You know, like a perspective like this, where you're seeing the top of the cube here, right? That's gonna connote that this is something that's rather small, sitting on a countertop. It's important to think about that stuff straight up front, you know? If I were to do a perspective like this, you know, if I were to do something like that, how big would that object be? You know, a person's like that big for that perspective. But doing a perspective like this, you know, it makes me think that a hand could come into this scene here. Right, so low down perspective implies that the object is big. Perspective where the horizon line is much higher, so the horizon line is actually on top of the product here, and the vanishing points are pretty far out. So a high up perspective, that implies a smaller object in general. You can always break those rules selectively, of course. So getting back to this guy, just gonna break up the overall form by just blocking it in here. Right, so that's roughly my shape. It's kind of this C shape. Now remember, I had this front interface kind of laid back a little bit. And obviously it's highly shaped. There are no kind of parallel surfaces on it. Something like that. And I'm just gonna do one dial on this thing. This is a home espresso maker. We want to make it super simple. So, and it had this kind of recessed flat area to store some extra cups on top of. So I'm going to break that off. And it had these side rails. So pull this over here. This is our little back porch here for extra demi-tasse cups. Making sense so far? For those of you just joining, again, we're drawing a little home espresso machine. So one of the things I was showing in this little side view that I liked is this articulation of the form here. That comes down onto this base. So this is, I could take this form and wrap it around, kind of slingshot it, but I have this kind of front interface here, right? It's got our single input. And so this form is kind of doing this, and it's wrapping around, and I think I want to have that do the same thing here. So, the form slingshot around, it would almost be, I don't know, a little weird, but this way now it's kind of almost like it gets cut off if you made this form and then sliced it, which I think makes just a little bit more conceptual sense. Doesn't mean those sides have to be perfectly straight though. Some nice arcs, and have that front be flat. And then remember we have this, this line is this line roughly, and then this is going to come out. So it's not quite that thin. And then this is kind of tapering back. And then I kind of throw this part line through here, so maybe that's built in 2 sections, but that part line is also going to give me just a nice little opportunity to define the form a little bit. This is like a little chunky back here, so maybe this line's got to actually come back a little bit more. And that's why we do underlays. Just sketching it out so far. Okay. And then typically I think there'd be some kind of a tray here. Maybe this actually rolls up to that tray. That kind of feels good. Right, so, and then that tray would have perforations on it. So we could drain any excess fluid that might spill into this tray. If you've got any questions at all while I'm doing this, feel free to just drop it in the chat. Happy to answer any questions on it or anything else. Just let me know. And then I also want to just throw a little demi-tasse cup on here, so let's get that moving. Can't have espresso without the cup. And then there's that little, whatever you call this, where the espresso comes out. This guy, so probably just see a little bit of that. All right, so I got this rough sketch going. I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna flip it over real quick. Yeah, looks like I made this a little wide compared to that. Yeah, definitely did. Yeah, just take that in a little bit. Yeah, much better. Fix that in overlay. All right. So, let's get that overlay going. So I've got my very rough sketch underneath here. Now I can kind of neaten it up just a little bit. Slightly more controlled lines. Still gonna keep it loose though. Don't be afraid to turn that page when you need to. Exaggerate that belly here just a little bit. Okay. Coming up around like that. You know, I always turn the page. I very much know the different arcs that I can make easily. So like this arc from my wrist, you know, I can't do that arc this way very easily. So just turning that page to get it. Just a little bit of a radius here, radius going back here. Flatten out this back porch just a little bit. There we go. Part line, I kind of straightened this out a little bit. There's a slight, almost like a very soft chamfer here, going to a radii and then to another flat. And then this is a pretty big radii right here, so that's gonna carry, that's gonna carry all the way through there. That. Okay. I'm gonna pull out a straight edge here, and I just want one really nice flat surface here. That's the flat surface for the base for our demi-tasse cup to rest on, so, and flat bottom. Okay. And then we had our drip tray. Inset that from the edge just a little bit. And then I'm gonna have the drip tray kind of bend over that edge there. There we go. Not bad. It's getting somewhere. This filler spout coming down. And break that. I had it as kind of this circular cone element, but it doesn't really match anything else, so I'm gonna make it this kind of soft pill shape in section. Back of the drip tray there. And then you're going to get our demi-tasse cup in here. Now we're not really designing the cup, so I'm just going to hint at it. I don't need to really fully draw that. The purpose is to communicate the espresso machine, right? Okay. I have these rails on the side of that back area, that storage area, but I don't know. I don't think it needs them. Instead, I'm just going to do this little inset panel here. That could be like a nice soft touch material so that we could rest some cups on there. Okay. And then we had our drain holes here. And when you're doing stuff like this, I find like I don't always need to draw all of them. I just need to draw enough of them so that you kind of know what I'm getting at. Just doing something like that, you're like, okay, I got it. The eye kind of fills in the rest. And then, I'm going to add a side view to this. So I had this little side view here. Let's see where I can make that fit. Just use that as an underlay for my side view. So I pulled this back a little bit more. Flat here, and I flattened off this back a little bit. It's still sloping a little, but it doesn't have that kink that the original sketch had. And this crisp line comes off that UI there. then becomes the top of our base. Front of the base very flat. And remember we had this belly here that then is going to run into this area. And then this part line here. Then we had this filler spout. Now, so this belly is this round section here, right? So if I'm drawing that from the front, so this round belly, and then the filler is doing this, so what's that gonna look like on the side? You're gonna see this is the top of it, and that's the bottom of that belly. So what you're gonna see is this form intersect this form, like this. Does that make sense? Hey Hector, hey Olive, thanks for joining. Jackson. And then we've got our demi-tasse cup. Bump, bump, that. All right. That is a good start. So we went from these quick underlays to this very, very rough underlay to this. But now where do we go from here? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna black out some areas. Like this guy. Don't be scared of the big marker. I want this front UI to just be kind of, it's not really a screen, it'll just be a backlit kind of an area. Kind of a very dark, translucent plastic. And then remember we did this back porch here for storing the demi-tasse cups. And I want that to be kind of a rubber mat, so I'm gonna fill that in too. Just real rough here, not being too careful about it. But notice how I left myself plenty of room, because now I'm gonna come back in with a Sharpie and kind of neaten up those edges. And I like just filling in these kind of major black areas first, because it helps me add more contrast. It helps me be more bold, because I'm like, wow, now I have a totally different feeling to the sketch from that I had a minute ago, right? In the side view, I'm not going to really render up the side view too much, but notice how I kind of this area kind of wrapping around a little. What that is implying is that if I drew the top view, that this would not be totally flat. This would be arcing slightly. And so I'm not going to draw all the views in this concept sketch, but I want to show that. That's kind of an important detail to me. Okay. So next thing I'm going to do is this drip tray here would be, you know, probably some kind of a brushed stainless or something like that. So I'm just going to really roughly indicate some stainless here just by doing some nice marker streaks, letting the marker kind of interact with the ballpoint. Notice I did that before I did the black dots for the drips or anything else, because I want to let that kind of do its thing a little bit there. And then let's see, let's go nuts and just make this thing, bright orange. See how juicy this orange marker is. Thanks, Jackson says, looking really good. Thanks, man, appreciate that. Always a risk when you're when you're sketching live, you never know how it's gonna turn out. Now that I read that comment, probably just screw it all up, but you know what? That's just, it's all part of it. So, thinking I want this surface to be somewhat filled in, pretty solid. We're gonna have the light kind of coming over from this area a little bit more. Usually when I'm gonna do a tone like this, I'll leave some areas just, you know, paper white to show like very harsh highlights. And then I'll do some totally filled, and I'll probably get a darker orange and maybe even a deep reddish brown to kind of fill in all my different tones. So this top surface now is going to be more in light. The light's coming down from up here. So I'm going to let that be just a little bit looser. See, started in my black areas. I'll probably come back and just touch those up a little bit. Don't need a whole lot there to show that. And I'm just going to get an orange line to show that kind of wrapping around. And also this probably, there would be some kind of an edge here. You know, that black area is not going to be totally flush there. And then back here, I'm just going to, again, just going to indicate that a little bit. Just want to make sure you know that's still part of the orange part. But be pretty loose with it. See, I'm already starting to get a little dimensionality. I haven't even done too much with that marker. Okay. Now I'm gonna do this. I've got this soft chamfered area here. And showing these radii, I'm kind of letting these radii be paper white. And if I had the light coming down from this way, let me just think about how this shadow would project. So probably would get a little bit of a shadow right there, like that, of this upper surface. Doesn't have to be perfect, I'm just estimating what the shadow would be. I'm gonna have that shadow basically also reflected in my drip tray here. And so if the light's coming that way, the cup's gonna cast a shadow that way too, right? So the cup shadow is gonna be something like that. And then let's say, I guess I don't really want to make that orange, but I don't want to make it black either. Maybe I'll just make him dark gray. Probably should have made this rubber matte in the back the same gray, but you know, it's okay. Okay. Now I've done this stainless here. I'm going to come back in with my Sharpie and get those little drip areas, those perforations. And then I think for this view, I don't want to take away. There's already so much going on the page. I'm just gonna put a little bit of this 10% on it. Just so it has some dimensionality, but I don't want to really take away from this view too much. And I'll come back in with a Sharpie and just that will pop a little bit towards the end. Okay. Let's get a darker orange. Let's see what we got here. I like to do these little tests. I want to see how the different tones react with one another. So I've got this orange. That's kind of my main body. what happens if I put this yellow ochre over top. That's going to darken it nicely. And then we got this pro marker, that's Mandarin. Let's see what that does with it. That's a little bit brighter. I think I'm going to do the Mandarin. So I want to show again this kind of shadow coming from here. So I'm going to do kind of a shadow coming down through here. But also I want to differentiate this surface from over here. So I want this surface to be the darkest. So I'll start with that. Can you all hear the little bit of lo-fi beats in the background? I found this royalty-free lo-fi beat station because if I did anything else, YouTube would block the video. But since I found a station that's royalty-free, I get to have a little bit of music while I sketch here. Yeah, this thing's a little bit glossy, so I'm going to put some slightly deeper tones along these radii. I want to show off that glossiness. See how that contrast makes it feel so much glossier? Realized I completely neglected to add a little orange here. So we have this edge. And then should do a little bit here on this edge. Okay, starting to get somewhere. Starting. So now I've got kind of my colors worked in, laid in a little bit. I'm going to start coming in with my Sharpie and defining some of these lines a little bit more, especially the outer ones. Again, I said the light was coming from this way, so I'm going to start thinking about where would a shadow be? Shadow's going to be doing something like that. And so we're going to start my Sharpie on this one, because that's going to kind of define my line weight for the other one. So I want this main view to have slightly darker line weight than this view. So I'm going to be a little bit more deliberate now, light touch with the Sharpie. It's okay to mess up with the ballpoint, but you mess up with the Sharpie and that's it. You see how that's really helping that sketch pop there. I don't think I want to do anything else to that. And work back into it a little bit with the ballpoint. Good. Show a little bit of that edge here. Let's see. The shadow. Let's do the shadow first. Let's do that with the 10%. Wanted to get that in before I did the Sharpie on the edges, just didn't want that to interact with the Sharpie. Okay. Biba says that gradient on top, yeah, just, you know, using the marker really fast helps you get that gradient, you know, just by using just kind of speed as your ally there. So you'd be very deliberate, but you know, just by doing that, you can get a nice gradient. I realized that wasn't really on the camera. Let's do it again. So just by doing really quick. So you want to be able to kind of know how to get those marks out of the marker. And that's why we practice. Think of sketching a little bit like running a marathon, right? If you're going to run a marathon, would the day of the marathon be the first day you ever ran? No. You'd run every day for months leading up to the marathon, right? Same with sketching. Sketch a little bit every day, and then that day you have to run a marathon, the day you have to do a client project and everything has to go right. It's just another day that you're running. So darkening up the line weight on the outside of the sketch, and then as you guys have seen in my line weight video, I'm going to darken up anywhere you can kind of get your hands around. So conceptually, right, this, whatever this top slab is called, you can get your hand under that, right? So I want to darken that bottom line up so that you conceptually understand that. Same with this little filler area. So do you see how just doing that, it's a little bit scary, but it really just pulled this off of that. Okay. Hitting these outer lines real lightly. This is kind of the top edge. I don't want to be too heavy here, but I want to make sure it doesn't also fade into nothing. I need to darken up my cup a little bit, but I do not want to use this, because that is just going to be too dark. Let me see if I can be careful with my ballpoint and do it. Yeah, okay, that's going to work. Olive says this is relaxing, good. Want it to be chill. If any of you are sketching along, feel free to post it on Instagram, tag me, tag @DTulo. I'd love to see if you're working on it too. Again, kind of turning that page where I need to. Using my principles of that line weight, you can get your finger down into that cup, right? So this line's got to be dark. And I'm purposefully not using any marker on the demi-tasse cup because I want it to look different from the coffee maker in a way. So I'm just gonna very lightly hatch it, just to give it a little dimension, but also so you know that it is not coffee maker. Cut not included. Gotta tighten up that edge a little bit. Got a little bit loose with the marker. Ian says really capturing the energy that we want in coffee. I mean, it feels a little caffeinated. Okay, so I had this display here. It's kind of gotten a little bit lost. Okay, we're gonna bring it back. I wanted to just black it out so that I can bring it back with a white pencil. Excuse the pencil sharpener. So the first thing I want to show is that this is very glossy. So I'm gonna put a reflection across it, just with the white pencil. And just varying the pressure on the white pencil here. using my fingers to kind of smooth it out a little bit. And then I want to show this edge of this thing. So I'm really kind of bearing down on the pencil there. I'm going to do the same along the bottom edge here, since I kind of lost it a little bit with that filler spout. And then, so this was some kind of a rubber mat. So maybe there's just some gentle ribs on this rubber mat to store some extra demi-tasse cups. If you could just maybe store 4 of them on there, that'd be nice. You're gonna show off the edge of that material too. I want this to be more contrasty. So I'm gonna pull out this bad boy. White paint marker. Before I get it going, these things could get a little splattery. Yep, see that first one was a little bit of a splatter. I want to do that on a practice sheet. Oh, I see a little drip coming off it. Let's get that. Okay. There we go. Now that is the highlight. I'm gonna wrap that. A little bit of a highlight there. I want to show that this is much glossier than this, right? This is rubber. This is glossy plastic. That is going to need to dry for a little bit. I'm going to try my best to stay far away from that area. I have a nasty habit of just running my hand right through there. But while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm just going to tighten up some of my line work here. Trying not to get there. Tighten this up again. Put a little radii on the edge of our drip tray, just define a little bit more from the orange body. Oh man, I still want to get my hand right into that. Yeah, not enough room to put a cup up there. Tempted. I'm going to draw a little center line through that there. Are you dry? Not yet. So that center line's coming down here. This center line right here. I'm going to darken up this edge a little. Get a little more definition between the front and the side edge there. Just coming back with that same tangerine marker. But markers are ink. Ink is translucent, so even if you're coming back over with the same tone, it's going to darken it down just a little bit. Just giving myself a little more contrast there. Okay. And then let's say maybe there's one physical button here. It's not dry yet. It's okay. Make it work for me. Got a little bit of a power button here. wanted it to break that reflection, but I was hoping that would be dry. And then I'm just gonna add a little bit more white pencil in here. Alright, this took me a lot longer than I wanted to. I just kind of got into it. Sorry, everybody. Hope it was helpful. Jackson says it looks very tangible. Thank you. Yeah, you know, I think it shows you how much these sketches just don't magically happen. I've been working on this for 45 minutes, almost an hour. Just, you know, it takes time to make it really pop like this. I'm gonna end it with putting some notes on here. And then I think we should end with just doing one more sketch. People want to make some requests. So there's some requests, and I love to hear what you want to see. So let's say extra cup storage. Drip tray. Try to tempt fate, put a little bit of just a light dot on the edge of that power button. It's really catching that reflection, just the edge of that material there. There you go. Yeah, good. Kind of matte plastic here. Showing that off. Not bad, I don't think. Trying to decide if I want to do this. Bigger triangle here. How wet are you going to be? Wet, white? Cool. There we go. I'm going to put a little bit of a vignette here just to finish it off. When I'm doing sketches like this, I tend to budget about an hour, and it took me almost about an hour. I haven't really gotten faster at it over the years. Maybe a little bit better, but it just takes time to build it up, you know? Especially if you're designing as you're going, right? So it's like when we went from these little pages to this. What do y'all think? Should we squeeze in one more sketch, or should we call it? Let me know in the chat. What are you thinking? Let's do one. Let's do one more quick one. Okay. I'm gonna stop fussing with this one. Put it over here. So, one more quick sketch. I'm going to give myself 19 minutes. Take this to 4:30 my time. In the last sketch session, someone asked if I would draw a car, but we were drawing houses, so it wasn't really quite appropriate. So let's get a quick car doodle in there. And I'm going to do kind of a autonomous shuttle thing. I had to approve your I had to approve your emoji. It didn't like it for some reason. So thinking of some kind of autonomous shuttle thing. Remember we talked about early in the session here about scale, right? So, I talked about how if you draw a little cube like this where you could see the top of it, it implies that it's a small thing, that a hand could grab it. But if you draw something where the horizon line is lower, it implies that it's much bigger. So for this little autonomous shuttle thing, I'm going to have the horizon line go straight through the center of it, like that, implying that a person is about that big. So you see that's kind of what I'm roughing out here, thinking like this is roughly where the horizon line is in the sketch. Because I'm going fast, I'm not gonna do any underlays or much construction. I'm just gonna kind of get at it. And worked on a few autonomous car projects over the last few years for clients, and one of the things I'm trying to always influence them to do is to make the product as friendly as possible, right? Like, I'm talking about having a car drive you around. I don't want it to look like this cyberpunk thing that's going to go on a rampage. I want it to look like, and I don't want it to look like a Ferrari or something either. I want it to look like something that's going to be safe and courteous and be there when I need it, and drive safely. So that's kind of what I'm trying to imply through some of these forms here. It's very soft, but there's still an underlying kind of reliable geometry to it. It's my thought anyway. Though I am designing as I go, so it's not getting a ton of thought. I have this kind of a little bit of a brow here. And then gonna have the rest of the glass kind of do this, come over, make it somewhat symmetrical. Large doors here. Something like that. And then since this thing is a shuttle, maybe there's some kind of a digital signage on the side here. Thinking of it as like some kind of a campus shuttle. Telling you where it's going. It's going to North Hall. Every school's got a North Hall or something like that, doesn't it? Seems like a very, very school place. Showing some form, so I think there's a little bit of a shoulder running through it here. Showing that off. And then the glass on these doors will be slightly inset. How am I doing on time here? Oh my god, I only have 4 minutes. Oh no. 14 minutes. Okay. Just indicating some simple wheels, very kind of aero. This thing is electric. A lot of indication going on here in this quick sketch. So this window is kind of coming back in space a little bit, so we're gonna see this edge of it, say like that. And then you're gonna see these windows on the other side. That. And then maybe there's some chairs that are kind of facing front and back here, so just kind of capture, just indicate that a little bit of edge of some seating on the inside. Maybe there's some storage back here somehow, I don't know. Making that up, maybe that's batteries in there. But just indicating that, I'm not going to show anything on the side here, I'm just going to have a little reflection going through there. And then probably need some lights. Lights would be good. Even though if it's driven by a robot, it doesn't really need to see where it's going, but it needs to light up, show people where it is. So like running lights up here, turn signals, running lights, something like that. Yeah, okay. Now I'm going to start hatching. It's one of my favorite things to do in just a pen sketch. This takes a lot of practice to have control doing this, but it really kind of brings the sketch to life without having to use markers or anything. Starting to come in with some slightly heavier lines. Come back in here and hatch the shadow down. I don't know if he's still in here, but I saw Hector was on here earlier, so just for Hector, let's make it an apple car. A little reflection going through those wheels there. And let's see. Hatch this front window down a little bit. You can see how they like I'm a little messy, it's okay. Letting it go past the line a little bit. I think it's better to go a little bit over than a little bit under, personally. And I'm just using the pen really lightly and really quickly. And that way it starts to build up a gradient. So see how I'm starting to pick up that highlight as that glass is wrapping around there, just by pressing kind of lightly. And since I went over a little bit, that's okay. I'm going to come back in and darken up the edge. And you see how it kind of, just by darkening up the line weight around the edge of that, it makes that kind of go away a little bit. A little bit more careful with this slightly darker hatch that's showing off where the seating is and stuff on the inside. bottom edge here. So just by pressing much harder, you get a lot more darkness, obviously, out of the ballpoint. Again, pressing really light here, showing that this is wrapping under a little bit. That making sense to everybody so far? Okay, now I only have 7 minutes left. Come in here with a Sharpie and just kind of hit some of these darker areas. Using the thickness of the Sharpie to give me that sense of wheel tire thickness. Just letting it be loose, expressive. And I think we need a person here for scale, so I'm thinking this thing is about 6-ish feet tall. So we're really quickly roughing a person here. Shadow under our waiting person. Don't need to put too much detail on him. Just want to indicate that it's a human. And maybe there's a couple of little ventilation points here. And I think that is pretty much it. Hope you all enjoyed this. I'm going to try to do a few more of these over the holidays here. So I have a little bit of time. A few of my clients are taking holiday breaks, so it gives me a little bit of time to do stuff like this, which is nice. I want to thank all of you for joining me, and super fun as always sketching with all y'all. So a quick little review. So first thing, got the request to do a coffee maker, which I wanted to do an espresso machine. So just did some quick little side view orthographics, and then it did this really terrible but effective underlay, and from that underlay built up this final sketch over time, and then we squeezed in one quick little autonomous sketch. So want to say thank you for joining. Hope you had fun. I had fun. If you practice any of these, let me know. You know, post it up on Instagram and tag me at Ditulo if you post. I'd love to take a look. All right, everybody. Hope you have a great night. Thanks, Steve.